All right, guys, so I didn't start the recording on time, but we're doing day 2 on this post-test packet, and we went through how to find the equation of this line by hand, by writing these as points, finding the slope using point slope. But I'm trying to point out that you could also use linear regression, and I've never showed you this before because you're supposed to know how to write the equation of a line. Okay, what would go in list 1? The x values, which were?
4.
And they have to match up with the y values, which were 10 and what? Is that right? 8, 10, and 4, 9 were the points? Okay. So then you'd go stat, right arrow. What are you going to pick? Yeah, we're trying to find a line, which is number 4. You don't even need to store it because you just want to write it on your paper and look what it gave you. 0.2, 5, and 8. Is that the same thing? Okay. Never showed you that before on purpose because you're supposed to know how to write an equation of a line. But at this point, okay. This is honestly the question that it irks me most that students miss on the whole test. This is an Algebra 1 question. It doesn't factor, so you have to do what? Quadratic formula. And I cannot tell you how many people cannot get this right still at this point. It's x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it's x equals, what are a, b, and c, guys?
1, 6, 11.
So I have the opposite of -6 would be 6 plus or minus the square root of. Always put the b in parentheses, especially if it's negative, or just square it and write down 36. And then it's minus 4 times a times c. This is going to turn out to be what back here when you have a negative and a minus? Positive, but you can type it in just like this. But that's where everybody goes wrong. Over 2a. So it's 6 plus or minus the square root of. This is 36 plus 44, which is 80. How did I do? Someone typing that? Please type it. Is anybody not getting 80 so we can help you figure out what you're doing wrong? You shouldn't be putting the square root in because it has to have an exact answer. All right. Can I divide this 6 and 2?
Yeah.
You are killing kittens, remember? This is a quantity. Can you take that 6 out of the whole quantity? No. Okay, but what can we do to 80? Anybody know a perfect square that goes in there? Yes. 4 goes in 20 times, but if you think about it, 4 would go into 20 again, right? So it is 16. This is 6 plus or minus the square root of 16 times the square root of 5 all over 2. Well, what does square root of 16 become? So now I have 6 plus or minus 4 square roots of 5 over 2. Now could I take a 2 out of everything on top?
Yeah.
So it's going to reduce to become what?
Plus.
Because both of those can divide by 2. Oh, scribbled out half the answer. We okay? Can you please get that right? Practice some quadratic formula tonight. Monday, Sunday night, whatever. Everybody okay? All right. This is also a calculator question. We are supposed to graph this and find an appropriate window. Can someone read me the equation quick? Thank you. Okay. This is the height of an object thrown from the top of a building. So what do I need for an appropriate window? Because you're getting graded on whether it's an appropriate window for the word problem. Okay, should I leave negative? Okay, time can't be negative, right? X is time. I don't think we need 100 because I don't think it's going to take that long to fall to the ground. The Y value really can't be negative. I'm going to leave it a little negative just so I can see this. You think it goes up 100? This is a pretty okay window, except what? Yeah, so I need to maybe go 150. Okay. I really have more. I don't need to go out this far on time, but it's okay. I'm all right with it having extra. What I do, guys, is I find the smallest window that works, and then if yours is a little bigger, that's okay. But should you have negative X values here? No. I will know that you don't really understand the problem if you have negative X values here. Okay. So then you're supposed to put this in here. And over here, we did 0 to 10, which definitely could have been smaller. And this could be 0 to 150. I did negative 10 to 150. I don't know why that plus is there, just because I messed up. At what time did the ball hit the ground to the nearest tenth of a second? So I need to find what? Okay, the x-intercept, which is called a 0 when we go to use the function. And it is happening 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere between 4 and 6. Or between 5 and 6. 5.26, and it says round to the nearest tenth. Now, I gotta tell you, some of you lost points for rounding yesterday. Remember, this is not a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grading system. Everything is defined because it's part of the SLO test. Everything, it says like I have to take off a half point for this. I have to take off a full point for this. Everything is defined. So be careful and read directions. During what time interval is the ball more than 100 feet above the ground? Interval to the nearest tenth of a second again. How do I do this? Yes, good job. Go into y equals and put 100 because I want to know when it was above 100. If I'd read that question ahead of time, I probably would have realized I needed a taller window sooner, right? But I need to find those two intersection points. 3.7 is that one? Did someone else get that on that end? Make sure it says intersection at the bottom so that you know you've done enough entering. 1.3 and 3.7 is what I got. Did anybody else get those numbers? Now, it says it's an interval, and it says it's supposed to be more than 100 feet. So I'm not going to just do parentheses. I'm not going to argue about what kind of notation it should be. That's not the point. Okay, does anyone remember what average rate of change is? Yes, it is just slope. Good job. Okay, this is an explain question, by the way. So how do we find t equals 3 and t equals 5? We could plug them back in, but if we already have it in our calculator, what else could we do? We could go trace 3 and make sure we're on the blue one and write it down. Or you could go to the table, but your table would have to be in auto. Okay, if I go to the table in auto, I get 3, 118, and 522. or I can do it by trace, or I can put them back in at the top. Everybody okay with how to find those points one of those three ways? Okay. Time at 3, height. What is the ball doing at that point in time from 3 to 5 seconds? If the height was 118 and now it's 22, yeah, it's falling. So the average rate of change better be negative. All right, we need to find the slope. Y minus y over x minus x. Please do not do this upside down. I think it's 96. Someone check my subtraction. How'd I do? So we have negative 48, and it must have a label. What were these 3s and 5s? Seconds. And what were these 118s according to the top of the problem? Feet. So this is feet per second, and it is falling. That's why it's negative. Okay. So explanation of how to find the rate of change. So I found height at 3 and 5 seconds and found the slope, which was change in y over change in x. It's a pretty good explanation. Show some work. It's part of your explanation. Any question? We're going to do that one right? That whole question's worth quite a few points, as you can guess, because it's got a lot of blanks, okay? All right, where did that one? We have this one, which is also multiple points. The following 3 transformations are implied in order to this graph. Create the new function would result after these transformations. What is the parent function? They gave it to us, guys. Square root of x, right? What is the new function? Okay, vertical stretch by a factor of 2. Put the 2 out front because it's changing y values. Horizontal shift right 3. Inside, right? A vertical shift down 2. Okay. So outside is vertical, and it's just what it seems. If it had horizontal, it would be inside, and it would be the opposite of what it seems. What about reflections? Those are the ones we mess up. I don't tell you which axis. How do you know? If it's on the outside, it's over what? Upside down, so it's x-axis. Inside is over the y, which would mean it flipped left to right. This one is flipping up and down. I don't know why some of you don't know which axis is which or what, but you get those backwards all the time. We good?
Yeah.
Number 6. What is this asking us to do? This is not a hard question. We don't need inverse at all.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good. What am I supposed to do? In words, this is 7 into G. Then the answer to that into F. Just so you know what we're doing in words, okay? So 7 into G, 3 times 7 plus 1 divided by 2. It's 22 divided by 2 is 11. And then what? Then F of 11. So 11 squared plus 1 is 121 plus 1, which is 122. Questions? Yes, this is like the kind of questions you're going to see. Whoops, sorry. We good? Anybody else? Need more time? All right, develop the inverse. Okay, pretty much want to cry about this question. Switch the x and y. This is why some of you still have a 1 on this section in the grade book. What are the steps? Now would be the time to learn this. Cross multiply. I switched already, yes. You do switch the x and y. I did that already, sorry. Cross multiply because there's a y in 2 places. Then isolate the y's against the x's on one side. Not all of anything with a y on one side, I should just say everything else on the other side. So isolate the y's versus the non-y's. How's that? And then factor. Oh, I can't write. And divide. Okay, please don't memorize the words for the steps. Just do a little practice and you'll have it. So if I cross multiply, I'll have x times y minus 3. And I'm writing out this step on purpose because a whole bunch of you will write x, y minus 3. And it's not. What is it? Okay, I'm going to show these steps. We need to move the y's over here. And then we need to move the 3x back over here. And don't mess up your signs. So we have an xy minus a 5y. And now over here I have a 3x plus 1 or a 1 plus 3x. Doesn't matter. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'll write it correctly. Now what? Nope, I do not divide. Factor out a y. And then I get y equals, yes, the whole right side gets divided by the quantity x minus 5. So my answer back up here on the blank, whoa, 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 is 3x plus 1 over x minus 5. Everybody okay? I didn't make any mistake anywhere, did I? I have some of those on the extra practice questions that are in this slides packet up at the front of the room. We can do another one at the end of class if we get that far. Is 12 the next one that you have not done yet? Okay. This would be why some of you still have a bad grade on 2.2. Okay. Can someone tell me how do we know where the zeros are and what their multiplicities are? Okay, but I got people who still don't know what it means when you say bounce. They're like, oh, that's nice. Okay, so it touches the x-axis, but it doesn't actually cross it, right? And that means at this 0, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5, it's going to have what? You can just say multiplicity 2, I'm fine with that, but it's even multiplicity. Okay, where else does it have zeros? Yeah, please don't forget that it has one at 0. And then 2, right? So we have negative 5. You don't have to write multiplicity 2 here, but I'm going to remind you. 0 and 2. And why isn't there a multiplicity of anything other than 1 on those two? Okay. So it crosses the x-axis. Any questions? Okay. Now we're supposed to write out the factored form, but leaving it in factored form. If you want to write x minus 0, go right ahead. Otherwise, it can just be a plain x. Then we have an x minus 2. And what? Okay. And if you forget the squared on here, are you going to get the right k value or a value or whatever you want to call the stretch? No, you got to put that squared on. All right. We have to find the k value. How do we do that? Yeah, I don't know if it's labeled on the graph or up above somewhere, but this is where we got to plug this in. We're plugging in -2 for what? X, and this for Y, because this is the ordered pair -2, -288. All right, so the Y is -288. I don't know what the stretch is, but I know X is -2. Okay, that gives me -288 equals K times -2 times, what's this parenthesis? And this parenthesis back here is 3 squared, which would be 9 after we squared it. So I get -288 equals 72K. Did I multiply that right? Is it -4 maybe? Someone divide and check. How can I check that problem? I could actually type the whole bloomin' thing in and make sure it looks like this, right? The problem is I don't know what Y window to use to make it look like this. So it's gonna, but I could make sure it had the right zeros. But how do I also know that it's turning points, you mean? Okay. Yes, it's degree what? It is degree 4, but not because of that 4 out front. It's degree, there's an X, an X, and an X squared. So it is degree 4, which means both ends have to go the same way. And the negative coefficient out front tells me they both go down. Okay, that's what's helpful. All right, the next one is, oh, did I just miss one? I got a little carried away. 18, okay. I don't know what I was looking for, but all right, number 18. This is, what's your algebra brain tell you to do first? Log base 2 of x equals, if we divide both sides by 5, we get 8. Shouldn't even need a calculator, because what does this mean? It actually means 2 to the 8th equals x, but it's okay. That's confusing you. When you see the little base and there's a log on only one side, what do? Thank you. Maybe we need to do some log review. Okay. The 2 and log base 2 undo each other. So we get 2 to the 8th, which is, thank you. Okay. There's still only logs on one side here, but what do we need to do with them? Okay. It says explain how to use the properties of logs. So what do you think you have to do for your explanation? Logs being subtracted, this can be rewritten as what? Okay, using properties of logs. So it becomes log base 5 of what? X divided by 6. There we go. Now what? Yes, there's log in one place. So again, we're rewriting or exponentiating. So we have what left on the left?
Oh, wait, that's
On the right-hand side, we have 5 squared or 25.
that.
What's on the left? Just x over 6. So we get 6 times 1, or 6 times 25. Yes, no, maybe. So we should probably say over here, then we exponentiated. Somehow I don't know if that's really a word, but as long as you show work and you mention which property of logs you used, you're good. All right. Am I okay to go on to 20 or not? Anybody need more time? You use property of log to rearrange this. You don't have to actually give me, it's just a 1-point question, so you don't have to explain, but it's telling you what's the base. Guys, this was just on a quiz, and most of you did fine because you reviewed it ahead of time. But when you come in to do a retake, I got a whole bunch of people telling me I should divide. Is this a distributing question? No. It's ln, which is log base e. So if I want to get rid of that, what do I need to do? Yeah, apparently we're really exponentiating happy on this final, right? So now I have e to the y equals what? So if I'm going to isolate x, all I have to do is e to the y plus d equals x. And please write it carefully so that you can tell what's in the exponent and what's not. Okay. You guys are making me nervous. I hope you have good solid grades, those of you doing other homework or on your phone or game. Create an equation. This is worth a lot of points again. To solve this application problem. Okay, some of you did fine on this on the quiz, but that's because we practiced it right before. Okay, find the length of time needed. You will have your little cheat sheet that has the formula on it, but the formula looks like this. Okay. A single cell amoeba reproduces every hour. Doubles, what's that? Where does that go in this formula? That's R. If 47 such amoeba are placed in a petri dish, what is that number? N sub 0, it's your original amount. Calculate the amount of time needed to the nearest tenth of an hour. That's T, we don't know. To grow over 17,500, that's what? N. Anybody know what H is? Nope. Are you serious? This is just says every hour, right? So easy, it's confusing. Yeah, it just says every hour, so it's 1 hour. So we need 17,500. We originally had 47. It's doubling. We're looking for T, and its doubling time is every 1 hour. So now what? Please divide 47. Do not multiply 47 times 2. So I do not do it as a decimal, guys, because if you round too early, you will get the wrong answer. Okay, so we divide, and that leaves us 2 to the t is all it leaves us, right? As t over 1 is just t. Now what? T is in the exponent, so we have to, no, talk the log of both sides, and it doesn't matter which kind, okay? So you can do log or ln on both sides. So now you'll have the log of 17,500 divided by 47 equals, and over here, if you bring the t out in front of the log of 2, then you're going to need to do what? Divide by the log of 2 to get t by itself. Okay. Log 17,700, is that what it was, guys? Divided by 47, close parenthesis, divided by the log of... It's 500? Thanks. Log of 2. Anybody getting this number? Oh dear. Anybody know what the problem is here? If we want over 17,500, you don't want to do 9 because it says nearest tenth of an hour. What is your, right now you're all thinking you need to do what? 8.5. Okay, so I want everybody to go back and put in 8.5. Do 47 times 2 to the 8.5. It's not enough because this 4 needs to do, if there's anything beyond that 5, we need to round it up. So it's going to become what? Yes, you got to round up to the next tenth. 8.6. Now how many does it come out? So 18,237 if we round to the nearest whole one. And now what, is that the answer? Says how many over, so now we need to subtract this guy. I don't know, how many is that? 737?
700.
Okay. I'm going to practice that one again. All right. I'm hoping we can get this right. But it says the amount of mold, where X is the number of years since 2010, is given in the table below. Find the exponential regression used to predict the amount of mold in 2020, round to the nearest thousandth. Thinking we're supposed to be using the stored equation here, guys. Okay. So, gonna type this in. Stats. Enter. List 1 is, what is it? Thank you. Anyone want to read me list 2? Nice and loud. Oh, yuck. Okay, here's hoping they're not that ugly on the final. Everybody got them in? What do we do next? Stats, right arrow. Do we just pick a random one? Because I think some of you do. It said in huge capital letters to do exponential regression. EXPREG. Okay, we need to store it. Okay. Has a very nice correlation coefficient, right? You have that turned on. But what do we write down? I don't know, it says thousandths, so I'm going to write this in thousandths too. 24.976 times 2.002 to the x. Okay, then now, what year are we looking for? 2020. Do I really use 2020? It says years since 2010, so I need to go down to 10, right? Or put in 10. Actually, I think this one would be pretty nice to just leave my calculator in this mode. It's now stored in Y1, my big long equation with a million decimal places. I can just scroll down to 10, right? If they really want us to round to the nearest thousandth, we'd have to go over onto this number. I'm not feeling it. What do you think? I don't know if it's not that. You'd have to go over onto that number and round this 25777.987. I don't think that's really what they want. All of these are rounded to tenths, but do whatever it says on the quiz. I don't think it's this. It would actually round to a whole number, wouldn't it? I don't think I'm going to be that picky. Any questions about that? Okay, systems of cookies. Oh, we should be getting good at these. Number of cupcakes. Number of cookies. One equation, anybody? $3 per cupcake plus $2 per cookie equals $44. And then the one that kills us every time, 3 times as many cupcakes as cookies. Okay, there are more what? More cupcakes. Okay, so you take the number of cookies and multiply it by 3 to get the number of cupcakes. If there's already more cupcakes and you multiply it by 3 again, and you say that's the cookies, then you're going to wind up with more cookies. All right, you can solve this any way you want. If I do substitution, it'll say 3 times 3y plus 2y equals 44, which would be 9y plus 2y, or 11y, or y equals 4. I got to plug it back in here. X equals 3 times 4, or 12. So Becca sold 12 cupcakes and 4 cookies. Make sure you do all of the parts because it's a multiple point question again, okay? Oh, good. We get to skip a whole bunch. Are we done? That's it? Okay. I got some part 2 extra practice up here. Do we need to do extra practice on exponential regression? No? We're good on that one? Extra practice. Here's one on height of a ball. Anybody need to see extra practice on rate of change again? So, but it's up here in this packet if you want it. And the worked out solutions are on yesterday or the 2 days ago when I went over it. What about an inverse question? Did I skip any other part 2s? Oh, this was a half-life, but it's not one that asks you to round. What about inverse? Somebody pick one. Which one you want me to do? Okay, so if I switch this, now what? Cross multiply, which becomes what? Minus 1x. Then what is it going to look like after I switch sides of stuff? Not yet. Nope. I have to isolate all the y's, so I subtract 5y and add 1x back to the other side. Then I take out the y. You've got to be factoring out the y because that's what you're trying to get by itself. And then you would divide. Okay? Domain. Actually, I kind of think domain is on the multiple choice part. What would the domain restrictions be here? Everything except -3. What would the domain restrictions be here? X cannot equal plus or minus 5. Does anybody remember how this works? 5 minus x has to be, oh my gosh, can only square root what kind of numbers? Positive, so it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Get x is less than or equal to 5 because 5 minus 5 would give you 0. Anything less would work. Okay, need more practice on this? What did we do for this, guys? What was our cheat? List 1, list 2, 2 and 7, 8 and 18, and then we did line of regression. Want to cheat? Ugh. Where are the zeros? Or just give me the factored form. We don't have time. X plus 3. Need a squared on that one? Nope. X minus 2 squared. X minus 5. Put in a 15 and solve for the stretch. Have a good weekend. Please, please, please look this back over before Monday. Yeah, I'll see some of you tonight.